Hello everyone, and welcome back to 4KB Shorts Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program with Kerbal Space Adventures. Last time we went to Minmus, and we got a lot of science, and we got to see some really cool cloud formations on what is basically an atmosphereless planet. Very awesome stuff. We also got a lot of science with which to buy new parts, and we did. We bought a ton of parts. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough science to get all the parts that we needed in order to do a proper, in my opinion, proper moon landing, which requires heavy lander legs. Now, I did go through and I tried to use the parts that we do have on hand to make a multi-Kerbal lander can, but the legs just aren't good enough to get any kind of lander that we could land successfully on the moon and then get back off the moon without breaking off the engine or causing some other type of damage. And I know people are like, well, you can land on the engine if you're safe, but we're not going to be safe. You know, we're not going to just try our bestest not to have bad things happen. We are going to do this properly. So we're not going to the moon just yet. So instead, we decided on something a little bit more scientific, a little bit closer to home, and a little bit easier to do, and that is we're going to set up a satellite system using remote tech. Now, I've already built the ship, so if we go ahead and zoom up, what we see here is the KSA Pleiades, and it's sort of like Pleiades, but there's not 7 of them, and it's Kerbin, so there you go. And so you guys may recognize this from a previous build. I originally had gone with a single satellite, but as I was doing my recording and I was talking about it, I realized that I could do multiple satellites at the same time. And that's where this comes in. So as you can see, we have these very simplistic satellites here with the antenna on top. These have been converted to be omnidirectional antennas instead of point-to-point antennas because, in my opinion, a point-to-point antenna system where you have to have a clump of antennas in space all doing relays is just really pointless when you can just do omnidirectional. And imagine with your grand imagination there in your head that there's a Kerbal down on the ground that points satellites to each other as they need to communicate. Much easier in the long run, in my opinion. So we have that. So we have the 4 of these, which we're going to put up into geostationary orbit. We're going to show the launch, of course, because we do have a Kerbal on board, and we don't have any food or anything because it shouldn't take more than a day. If it does take more than a day, we're going to have a problem, but it shouldn't take more than a day. But we do have a Kerbal on board, so we don't have to worry about losing connection, having our satellites crash down, anything like that. We should have enough fuel to get into orbit. I don't know why I did food. We should have enough fuel to get into orbit, so we have 791, 1940, 40, 58, and 7219. That 7219 is going to be our maneuvering fuel, which is this big center tank here. And we should be able to get these up into a geostationary orbit, so that from there we can create an additional satellite, hopefully with the parts that we need, create an additional satellite which will house our combined mapping unit. Now our combined mapping unit will of course map Kerbin, which will get us a lot of science, provided we can build one that basically has this thing on it, for lack of a better word. The Sputnik is a great first gen probe body, but with remote tech it causes so many issues. It really causes so many issues. It makes it almost impossible to use for any kind of mapping. Or alternatively, we could just send up a Kerbal and have him map for a day. If for whatever reason we can't build a satellite for that, we may just have a Kerbal go up and do it, which will be interesting and functional at the same time. But for now, we are going to try to do our satellite system. So we're going to send a Kerbal up and, you know, get these out there. I am going to do this now. I know that last time I did this, I set it up to where I launched each one. I said, here's this launch, here's this launch, here's this launch. And everyone's like, well, why don't you show all of it? You could have fast forwarded, you could have done other things. It's boring. I know that people think that they can use these little shows for tutorials, which is great. If you learn something from them, that's great, but that's not what these are for. These are for entertainment value only. And to show you every nuance of launching a geostationary satellite system would be a complete waste of time. So I'm going to do the initial launch, and then I'm going to do the first satellite launch, and then I'm going to do the rest off camera. And for those people who are like, no, show everything, please, 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 no. That is the most boring thing ever. You just go up to a geostationary orbit, you launch your first satellite, you slow down a little bit, you let the satellite go by as you go by, or anyway, one of you goes by. Orbital mechanics, yay. One of you goes by, and then you wait for it to get like a quarter of the way around the planet, then you speed up again, get back into a geostationary orbit, and launch your next satellite. And then you do that 2 more times. It's not super complex, and it's extremely dull. And we can get more into the show if we can, into the episode itself, if we can just skip all that. So I'm going to show the initial launch because there is a Kerbal involved, and this is a new launch platform. Big silver tanks there. And along with that, we don't know how this is going to handle, or if it's going to make it, or if it's going to fall back to the planet and crash. But we should have everything okay. So I'm going to go ahead and head out to the launch pad and get this thing up into the sky. I will see you guys there for at least the first stage of that. And And then after that, we will be showing the initial satellite launch. And then from there, I think we'll show the return. And the return might be iffy because, of course, with returns at this point, showing every single return becomes kind of pointless as well. So I'm trying to cut out some of the useless stuff. But if anything goes wrong, you guys will be the first to know because of course, I'll just show it to you. Be like, that stuff's going wrong. Bit of a spoiler alert there, I guess, but that's okay. Once we get these things up there, we'll start designing or building a scanner sat. If we can't build a scanner sat, we will design a scanner ship, which will take a scanner sat into the atmosphere, and we'll have a Kerbal float around up there for a while doing scientific stuff. So I'll see you guys out there on the launch pad. Okay, guys, here we are, and as you can see, Andreas Kling is going to be our pilot for today. He has not flown anything before, and I figured somebody from the top of the list probably deserves a little bit of love there. So let's go ahead and turn on our SAS, crank up our throttle there, and we will, well, we'll launch, well, now. So here we go. And we're on our road. Well, that's going to be slow, so here we go. Now we're on our road. Gonna have to put a little bit more force behind that. Oh, and look at Andreas. He's very, very excited, very, very happy about this whole thing. He's like, look at me. I get to finally fly a ship. Yes. And it's a very important ship, too. Because without this ship, then we won't be able to do all sorts of other things like, oh, I don't know, say, launch probes, get science relays back, scan the entire surface of Kerbin and possibly the moon, you know, important things like that. So without the grand and glorious Andreas Kling taking these to the sky, there would be nothing. There would be nothing. There would be no science. It would be evil and darkness. So we're just going to go, and we're going to get moving. Now, of course, again, I'm going to cut the video as soon as we release our first stage, provided nothing goes wrong. And then, if something does go wrong, I will show you guys later. But if not, we should be fine. So here comes our first stage. Bye-bye. And that looks like it went great, and our throttle's still holding pretty good. So I will see you guys when we're ready to launch our first satellite. Alright, everyone, here we are, very high over Kerbin, with just under half a tank of gas left, which is super-duper awesome. And we're going to have Andreas get out. Andreas Kling. Mr. Kling. Mr. Kling is going to extricate himself from the pod. And we're going to have him launch our first satellite. So, I haven't been doing this as much as I should be, or said I was going to be, which is I haven't been doing the thing where I have the Kerbals do all the physical labor out here. Now, I'm pretty sure that our Kerbal friend here, Andreas Kling, should be able to, without question, open up these solar panels, but they're 1x6s, so we're not going to do that. We should be able to activate this, right? Force open. Done. So that activates it. It doesn't have a target. It should need a target, but it does not have a target. And now, we are at exactly 6 hours. I did a really great job, and I'm actually kind of upset about it because I didn't think about it before I ended up doing it. We are exactly at a 6 hour, 0.1 millisecond orbit. 6 hours and 0.1 milliseconds. Can you believe that? Let's kick our light on, which I thought I did. And this little thrust right here is going to bork that all up. We can adjust it, of course, because each one of these little guys has a Kerbal engineer on it. But I was just like, oh my god, that's so close, so close. 6 hours and like 0.1 second. The orbital drift is going to be like nil. And then we're going to launch this thing, and it's going to completely bork it out. So here we go. We're going to launch it. Oh, can we not decouple it from here? We have to decouple it from inside. Oh, looks like we can't decouple it from here. So I was going to decouple it from here, but we cannot. Can we at least open up a couple of the solar panels from here? It's 10 panels. Okay, so we can open up a couple of the solar panels from here, which is a start. And so that way when we launch it, we can just do that from inside. We'll just do that from inside, but looks like the explosive bolts are non-accessible from the outside. Now, I did add 4 solar panels on here to make sure we had enough power to power not only the antenna array, but also the... yeah, see, that would definitely collide with our pod. Well, basically enough power to power everything. We also have some batteries and some injectors. The injectors, the capacitors really don't matter so much because we're... Nice, Andreas. They're probably not going to matter so much because we probably won't need them, but they are there as a thing. Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, look at our time right there. Look at that blipping like that. That's so awesome. Although I think it's blipping like that because of the SAS unit, but that's okay. But yeah, it's just like it's right there, and then we're gonna have to destroy it by doing this. Decouple. Here we go. Boop. Done. All right, now it should have local control. I hope. Let's find out. Switch vessels. We have no connection. All right, switch back. Can we turn on one of these then? Any one of these? Let's turn on this little guy. He has an antenna. Activate. Operational. 90 millimeters. So if we switch back, no connection. Do I have to set the target? Status operational, charges left. It's currently at 6 hours, 11.6 seconds. Why do we not have a connection? Maybe we have to set up all 4. Because I know this is open. I opened it. As you can see, it's open and omnidirectional and operational. I don't believe we have to set a target for it. That didn't make any sense before. But we may not be connected to anything. Even though these are technically connected, we may not be close enough to connect everything like we needed. So what we'll do is we'll switch back to the other vessel. We will have Andreas get out again, and what he will do is he will let go, RCS up, light on, and we will have him back it up. Back it up. We will have him head on over here, and he will open up this last solar panel. So it's at 6 hours by 11 seconds. That's going to give us a good timer, because what that timer is going to do is that timer is going to allow us to adjust future ejections of these things to adjust for that 11-second difference, 11.1 second difference. Hopefully when we get all 4 up and alive, there should no longer be a problem. They should all connect. I don't know if they're going to do that. We will have to find out. They should without a problem, but we're going to have to find out. Everything's active, everything's online before we leave this guy out here in space by himself where he belongs. Set target. I guess we can say mission control. There may have been a problem with this. These are set to omnidirectional, so they shouldn't even need a target, I don't think. Let's see, where are we? No connection, no connection. Alright, so irregardless, it's going to be that way. Alright, so what that means is we will set the target to nothing, and then if it doesn't work, if there's a bug or if something else going on, because it's been such a long time since I've done this. If there's a bug or if there's something else going wrong, we'll work with it. But for now, we're just going to set it to no target. We're going to head back to the ship, and then we're going to get ready to launch the other 4 satellites, because I'm pretty sure that everything should be working just fine. They're omnidirectional. It says right there on the panel, omnidirectional. The satellite is active. The only difference is it's probably not anywhere near Kerbin, so it can't get a Kerbin connection. And since we're not anywhere near Kerbin, or they're not connected between the two, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out, I think. Oop. But that's another way we can try it. Let's go ahead and try this one more thing while we do this. This is active. Yeah, see, this doesn't need to set target. So, yeah, I'm thinking that's just a heads-up display for the Kerbal, and it's not important. So we just don't have a connection because it's not connected to the KSC. And we will figure that out as needed. But we're going to go ahead and cut here. I'm going to launch the other 3 satellites on my own. Again, I tell you guys, all we have to do is we just slow down. We wait for the satellite to get about a quarter of the way around the planet. We speed back up to roughly 6-hour orbital period. And then we launch the next satellite and we just repeat that 2 more times. It's not super complicated, but it is very boring. So I'll see you guys when we're ready to launch our last satellite or return Andreas home, depending. We'll have to see how that is. Hopefully, when all the connections are set, the satellites will be working. If they're not, like I said, we'll figure that out. Either we'll do some maintenance stuff when we come back up, or alternatively, we'll just launch a satellite or a spaceship that's suitable for scanning Kerbin and mapping Kerbin. And we'll just, like, reset this. Instead of having satellites, we'll just have scanners on each end or something. I don't know, we'll figure that out. But I'll see you guys when I'm ready to launch the last satellite or bring Andreas home, depending on how I feel. You never know. So I'll see you guys there. Uh-oh. In my haste to leave the area, unfortunately, we ran out of electricity. So Andreas is going to be having a little bit of trouble here. So we have to very much hurry. And what we're going to do is we're going to have him RCS up. And I think what we'll do is we'll just turn on a couple of these rotation abilities. We're going to turn on a couple of solar panels here, which should get our power back on. That was a real big mistake on my part, but it should be corrected here. We'll just turn on a couple of these solar panels. They won't bump into anything. We won't have to worry about them. They'll keep our power online without a problem. Probably 1 is more than enough, but I want to be more safe than sorry because we ran out of power as we were leaving. As you can see, we only got about 17 kilometers away from the first satellite, and it went kaputski on us. So there we go. We'll get like just 3 solar panels online, and that should recharge us really quick. So just a little bit of a heads up that Andreas got into a little bit of a snafu there. Caused by me and my overzealous nature, and we should be able to get on board, and our power's going back up. So there we go. Okay, so we were able to fix that without a problem. Nice little update for you guys. So then now I will see you guys when we're less likely to have killed Andreas and more likely to have set the satellites in their proper orbit. Which reminds me, we do need to rename these satellites, so I will do that as well. So I'll see you guys when we're ready to finish this little job. So see you there. Alright everybody, the last satellite has been launched and set up, and we're going to go to the map screen really quick so I can show you guys what this looks like. It turns out we had one additional satellite that I really wasn't sure what to do with. Because I had gotten it to, as you can see, we have a triangle because I went with 1/4 of an orbit in order to conserve food. As you can see, we're running low on food. So I went with 1/4 of an orbit, which gave us 3 satellites that cover all of Kerbin, which is really, really helpful. Plus, once they connected, they all connected just fine, as you can see by the lines. But we had one satellite left over, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. So what I decided to do is, as you can see, we went into a highly eccentric orbit, about 45 degrees. And so that satellite's going to go up and over and down and under Kerbin, so that if in any case, so I don't know, if we have a satellite above or below or out at the moon or something, it's just an extra satellite that we have out here. It only goes out to 90 million meters, so it's not like it's going to cover a lot of stuff. But you know what? If we have anything up there at the poles, we now have the poles semi-covered at least. It's an interesting orbit. I just felt like doing that rather than wasting it, so that's super, you know, it's super interesting. Plus, I would have had to throw it off the ship anyway because it was really tilting the ship sideways. But now that we got everything out and in order and ready to rock and roll, it looks like we have all of the satellites exactly where we need them to be. And so because of that, what we're going to start doing is we are going to very gently start slowing down. And I'd like to do that without hitting the ship. I do have the engine turned down. And I also made sure that we had enough fuel to return home. I did turn down the, we have about 500 Delta V left. And I did that on purpose to make absolutely sure that we wouldn't leave Andreas, like, stranded out here in a very obscure orbit, 2,000 kilometers away from Kerbin. So we should get far enough away to where we won't do any blast back on that thing. And what we should be able to do is just slow ourselves down. And once we get down, worst comes to worst, we may have to get out and push. I don't think we'll have to get out and push, personally. We have 500 Delta V left. It should be more than enough to get us back home. And it looks like it's going to be just fine, maybe. 70, 60, there it is. We'll drop it down to 30. And done, there it is. So 29 kilometers, not great. Which gives us exactly 127 meters of Delta V left. Hey, pretty good. And we have half a day's worth of food, water, and oxygen. And if we turn the ship around facing the right way, we do have solar panels right here on the ship, which will keep us powered up until Andreas can get home. So I will see you guys most likely on the ground, unless something bad happens. Again, showing the atmospheric reentry for every landing is just kind of pointless. But I just wanted to show you that that's how our satellite system is going to be set up. Andreas is perfectly fine. We have enough fuel to get home, and we're ready to go. And we won't be leaving any space junk in space. Isn't that awesome? It is. All right. So I will see you guys most likely back at the Space Center, where we're going to set up our new satellite, and we'll have to see how that works. I'll have to design that off camera, and then we'll see how that works with the scanner. So I'll see you guys there. Alright guys, we got Andreas back. As you can see, we got 0.8 science out of that, including one surface sample from the Kerbin grasslands. I figured since we were out there in space, might as well grab a few things here and there where we had the chance. And so we got 0.8 science, not a lot, of course. Let's go ahead and take a look at our final frontier here. And there's Andreas Klang with 1 mission under his belt. Let's see, you got Dangerous EVA ribbon, a G-Force 6 ribbon, a Kerbin Surface EVA ribbon, a Kerbin Orbital EVA ribbon, and a Kerbin Orbit ribbon, which is just great. So that's just a standard, normal, average, everyday flight around Kerbin, which isn't so bad. But again, Andreas did a really good job by delivering all those satellites, which we're going to need in the future. Now I'm going to go ahead and get inside the VAB really quick, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to design a mapping ship, and it's going to be super awesome. And I think we may even bypass, even though we put it out there and we now have an orbital array of satellites to communicate with, I think we may bypass the orbital array and go straight for a manned flight just for fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put together a ship for that, and we're going to see how that works, and then I'll see you guys either inside or on the launch pad, most likely on the launch pad, just so we can get it right out of the way and get it up there into the sky and start mapping. Alright everybody, here we are with the Cartographer 1. I took one of the Creades probes and I altered it slightly in order to carry 2 of the detectors and 2 large solar panels, as well as some batteries and other bits and bobs. The reason why we're doing this instead of a manned flight, as I'd originally suggested, was because as it turns out, we may need this guy up in orbit longer than what a normal Kerbal flight would take. So instead of taking up a Kerbal and then bringing him back down, leaving the ship up there either half completed or bringing it back down, I decided to do just an entire probe ship, thus making our satellite system not pointless. An entire probe ship, which we will then use to map the stars. Well, map the ground. Actually, when we map the sky, we'll just be mapping the ground. So let's go ahead and launch our ship. We'll see if it holds up under the scrutiny of, well, intense flight. And after the first stage, of course, I will see you guys most likely after we're done mapping, because that would just be the best way to do it. So let's go. Ooh, a little laggy and very heavy. So let's go ahead and increase the throttle a little bit. Now, she does have about 8,000 delta V and a thrust to rate ratio of roughly 1 point something or other. It looks like it's right now, thrust to rate ratio is 2.0, so she started at about 1.98 or 1.93 or something like that. So she's not doing too bad. Now, provided all of the tubes and lines and everything are perfectly set up, we shouldn't have to, wow, really laggy. We shouldn't have too big of a problem. I'll go ahead and just keep an eye off the, off all the fuzzy bits down there, because I think that's where all the lag's coming from again. But that's okay. That's okay. You know, after a while, KSP does start to eat up all that RAM and get kind of buggy after a while. So long missions are long, because what you guys see here is not the entirety of the mission. You know, you guys see like a half hour, 45 minutes of video, and you guys are like, wow, those are really long. Except that when I'm actually playing versus recording, they're even longer. Alright, so there's our first stage, and it looks like everything's going clean for now. So I will see you guys, barring any incidents, I will see you guys in orbit after we're done mapping, so I'll see you there. Alright everybody, I have been mapping for quite some time now, and we've gotten up to 97.4% of the map completed. The problem is, as you can see here, our waste heat is at 3062 out of 3600, and the reason why that is because there are no heat vents on this thing. There are no heat circulators. There's nothing to get rid of the heat, to vent the heat out into space. Didn't put any on. I don't even know if we have any unlocked, but even if we do, I forgot to put them on the ship. My bad on that one. So as you can see, our panels are getting a little bit hot. The downside is if I retract a panel, it not only doesn't lose any heat, it also starts to lose power, which causes a little bit of issue in the fact that we can't scan or transmit data if the power is going off. So we are up to 97.4% of the map of Kerbin. It's not 100%. I was hoping that I might get lucky and I might hit 100%, but unfortunately I don't think we will, and if we lose power before we can transmit this data, then we're going to have a major problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and check our scan stat here. That's not the right one. I did turn them both on, but then I turned one off. I was hoping it would conserve power. It did not. So let's go ahead and analyze our multispectral scan data. Look at that, analyze multispectral data. That's 20 science, so we got multispectral analysis. We'll go ahead and transmit that. And that is going to be done, all right? We will analyze our SAR scan data, which is 17.9 science out of 100. That's the one that we're missing here. That's the high resolution altimetry data. This is the one that's not very complete and probably won't be, but it's 17.9 science, which is a good little bunch. Alright, and the last one is I'm not sure what this one is. It just says analyze and stop. I don't remember what it is. It is altimetry scan. So it's a full-on altimetry scan, and that gets us 20 science. Oof. So 57.9 science, that's all we got out of this? I was hoping for so much more. But unfortunately, I don't think we got as much science as we wanted. So that, say, 57.9 science on top of 83 gives us roughly 140. 140 is nowhere near 300. Nowhere near 300 that we need. Oh, that's going to be tough. What that means is we may have to scan other planets, or we may just have to knuckle under. Well, we have two choices. We can take another trip back to Minmus, which I wouldn't mind so much. I mean, we already know we can get there and get back, so we can take another trip out to Minmus, maybe collect a little bit more science, and then go to the moon proper. Or we can just go to the moon with a single lander can, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I know I could probably put together something that looks like a multi-lander can, but I want a real-life multi-lander can, you know? I want that. I need it. I must have it. It would probably be easier just to take a Mark II pod to the moon and then bring it back to Kerbin and be done with it. And maybe we'll try that for our first moon landing. A very classic, very very 0.17 style moon landing, I think. So I think that may be what we'll have to do next. I was hoping for so much more data from this, but apparently even with full scans, we only get about 20. We get more science from other planets such as the moon and Minmus and so on and so forth, but getting the ships out to there would be, well, not out to the moon and Minmus, but getting the ships out there any further would be kind of a pain. And there's so much science right here around Kerbin that we haven't collected yet, so I think we'll go ahead and save that until next time, because this has been long enough. But we do have the basis of our satellite system all set up, which is great. We may have to add a few more satellites to it, 90 bajillion meter parabolic dish when we get our hands on one, something like that, to do long range, maybe Eve and Duna science if we need it. Remember, this is all for a project, and what we need for this project is science. There's really not much else. Our other alternative, of course, is to complete the space station, which is currently orbiting Kerbin, and right now is just a habitat module and nothing else. That idea kind of went by the wayside, if only because it doesn't generate that much science. I mean, over the course of several months, like a trip to Duna and back, it generated like 20, 30 science around Kerbin. It generated much more science around Jool, but getting something around Jool is kind of a pain. But if this thing burns out, we'll bring a Kerbin up, maybe fix it another time. But we are looking more for science than we are for anything else. So I think the next time around, I think we'll just go ahead and either take a trip to Minmus or land just a single shot on the moon and grab some science there. Really depends on how I'm feeling. So it's gonna be up in the air. I'll decide that one when we get there. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and pause here. So once again, I would like to thank you all very much for joining me, 4 kilobytes short, on this let's play. Let's try that again. Of Kerbal Space Program, Kerbal Space Adventures, and I will see you guys next video.